Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Becky Sattero for AfterBuzz TV. I'm here for the NBCUniversal Winter Press Tour. We've got all the interviews with the upcoming stars of NBC's hottest shows coming up right now.
I'm Lyah LeFlore, and I am the co-producer and music supervisor for Unsolved, the murders of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G.
We are in for a treat with this.
A big treat. I mean, this has been sort of, for me, there's a lot of serendipity involved because the very first show that I produced on and orchestrated and laid the sort of musical blueprint for was an NBCUniversal show, New York Undercover. And that's where Anthony Hemingway, the great visionary that he is a force to be reckoned with, where we met. He is like my brother, and to all these years later finally get to work with each other again and just execute the vision that Kyle had thematically, being able to tie this amazing musical journey, because these are cultural icons. There is no case without the lives and, unfortunately, the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. And so
it's personal for a lot of people.
It's very personal. I mean, Bokeem Woodbine knew Tupac, and I think he knew Biggie as well. For me, one of the companies that I was worked at early on in my career was Uptown Entertainment, which was Uptown Records. Uptown Records, Biggie was first signed to them. So having known everyone and watching, I remember just the humor and the layers that people don't get to see because you hear a song and you sort of hear the stories and the street journeys and the lives that sort of the perception publicly. This show, I feel Unsolved is going to peel back those layers. And of course we had to tell the important sort of cop journeys, because you've never really seen the investigations. And this is the first time, while those murders technically still remain unsolved, you draw your own conclusions. But there would not be an Unsolved if music were not at the underbelly of it. So I'm just super, super proud and excited that I was able to have the opportunity to work with Harvey Mason Jr., who is my executive music producer and a hit maker.
And an icon.
An icon, but Easy Mo B, who is legend and really, really was one of the few producers that worked with Biggie and Tupac, and they created the iconic song Running from the Police in his studio. And so we kind of captured that story. I won't do a spoiler alert, but later on, and it's a powerful story, but just the journey that these two young men, and particularly young black men, at a time like this where I think culturally the same things that young men, particularly young men of color, were dealing with in the 90s, they are so prevalent now with social justice and just policing in America. And so this is a show where we even give a human side. We show the human side to police officers and detectives and the lives that they live when they're not trying to crack a case and how they take those cases home. I mean, just a phenomenal cast. But that music,
you knocked it out of the park with casting.
Phenomenal cast, but that music that we are creating, Easy Mo B, Battle Cat, who's a legendary West Coast producer, Irving E.P. Pope, who came out of Dr. Dre's camp, but successes range from everything from working with Dr. Dre, but also the game. So that West Coast sound is represented, that East Coast sound is represented. Mopreem Shakur, Tupac's brother, contributed music on the show and was a consultant on the show. So that really helped with the authenticity. Like, I feel like when this was laid in front of me and I had the opportunity when I sat with Kyle and Mark and Anthony, the executive producers, and was offered this awesome challenge, it wasn't really a challenge. Like, for me, it was a dream come true, because I feel like the 90s and the late 80s was that sort of golden era of hip-hop, and really where hip-hop and R&B merged, and Uptown Records was seminal to that. Def Jam, that sound coming out of New York, but also the rise of West Coast. And what we saw, and taking all the negative aside, Death Row was powerful. That sound that came out of here, that was the sound of the streets, but those journeys. So when you see the pilot and you see Wavy Jones and Mark Rose doing that freestyle in the pilot, it is authentic and it's real, and they own it. They're never once do we try to copy. Wavy just has a gift where he sounds like Biggie, but he's never ever trying to be. I think what I loved about this, they're never trying to be Biggie and Tupac. They own it, and they really live up to what the script, the beautiful storytelling in the script.
Well, I see a Grammy, an Emmy, all of that coming down the pipeline. So
from your mouth to God's ears and to Universal's ears. But one other, Dub C from West Side Connection, legendary West Coast hip hop artist with Ice Cube. Just was, I call him my cultural, consigliere. Just really helping to just the swagger of these two young men and the era. Who else we got on board? Irving, EP Pope. So just great music coming, and I think to excite and not to copy, we're creating here, and that was the beauty of it. And I think we're capturing the spirit of Tupac and Biggie, and we're paying respect to their estates.
I was just gonna say, you're paying respects, and that's what's important. Well, thank you for everything you've done. I can't wait to be